Welcome to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. Great to have Chris back. It's actually been a few weeks since we've had him back. We previously had him on. The last episode was with Chad from the Green Group. We were talking about an online strategy. Today, what we're going to be going through is online lead generation, and then also talking about the cold versus the long-term view of that. I think it's a really productive episode to actually get you to start thinking about who are you targeting and what type of business are you building? Are you doing both? And being just more conscientious about the social element side of things that is probably taking over some of the older testament of just general layering. Because one thing that we definitely identify in the episode is the data that you can collect off things. And we want to talk about how powerful that really is. Hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Well, it's been a little while since you've been on the podcast, Chris.
A little bit.
It's all right. You've been missed, mate, is what I'm saying.
I hope so. I hope the listeners feel the same that you feel. I know you miss me. It's just everyone else, you know.
So last marketing episode we did was with somebody cramping our style, which was Chad. However, I guess that it's actually gotten a fair bit of interest online. It's gotten a fair bit of comments. You know, there's been a few people reach out to us about it. But today, I think that we wanted to run through the lead generation side of your business or the passive element. But I think that the one thing I want to implore everybody to do is this is a further extension on what that episode was with Chad. Like, it's really just got us thinking about a different alternative way to do things within real estate. And where I want to go first of all, Chris, is just with a thought that, you know, I was sitting down the other day with an agent and they said to me, well, my strategy around flyer dropping and, you know, doing some door knocking and all of this type of stuff, like it took everything in my power to say, to not to say, no, why would you do that? Why would you invest into that? Like, don't get me wrong, I still think door knocking is important, but I just don't see flyer drops as the way to go anymore. Like, I just, the volume of people that I speak to on a daily basis that say, yeah, I just pick all the shit up out of my letterbox and just toss it in the trash. And where I'm going with this is that, like, I'm sitting down doing business planning with people and going, well, how much are you spending to retarget the people within your database? Like, first of all, how big's your database? Well, my database is over 1,000. That's one of the first key parts, is you've got to have an audience of particular size. And then second part is that, you know, what's the data look like in there? Well, the data is pretty good. Like, and you look at it, yeah, email addresses, phone numbers, and you're like, you should be targeting these people on social media as a passive element. Like, actually spending money on flyer drops is a waste of money.
I think there's an element of each channel has its own merits, right? And that's what I kind of always get at is there's a place for letterbox drops.
That's such a politically correct.
No, there's not. No. I'm gonna get into it.
Oh my God.
But the day and age of letter drops and people throwing away everything in their mail has been happening since I've gotten in real estate, which I think was like 2011 or 2009 or something, somewhere around there. And so it's been a long time where people have just thrown everything away. And we did letterbox drops. We did, you know, we would walk the neighborhood and we put flyers on everybody's doors and we do all those things. And it just turns into trash for a lot of people. And sometimes it works out, but I think you have to build your name other avenues for those to then work out, which I think you have to build the brand in order for those more lead generation aspects of your business to work out in the end, which would be, I think, in my opinion, you don't do letterbox drops for the intent of trying to get leads out of it. You're trying to do letterbox drops the same way you would want people to drive.
Layer. But like, do you think people do it because it works, or do you think that it just makes them feel better? I
think a lot of the times it makes them feel like they're doing something. It's tangible. It's a lot more tangible to do a letterbox drop than it is to run an ad on social media. But I would say in the turn, you're not getting any tangible from your analytics. You're not getting any analytics from a letterbox drop at all. The only analytics you have is how many you sent out and how many calls you received. You're not getting any of the impression analytics of how many people actually read your flyer or looked at your postcard or anything like that and ingested the information. And, you know, did they share it with the person who's the co-owner of the house or anything like that? You're not getting any of those analytics that you would get on social media at that point.
Let me put it to you this way. I said this the other day. You'll love this because you're in the city of Starbucks. is
We actually hate Starbucks up here, but
oh,
yeah.
you love it, mate. You love a good
It's from
commercial
here,
coffee
but
shop.
nobody likes it here. Everyone goes to
Yeah.
their local coffee shops.
It's
Anyways,
just like people automatically thinking that I like Foster's because I'm an Australian and that you like Budweiser because you're an American. It's like, oh,
it's pretty accurate. You love Foster's. I've seen it.
oh, jeez. Do you know the only place I've actually ever drunk a Foster's is in the
It's here.
US?
Yeah. I do know that.
Yeah.
Because I think I bought the
You
Foster's.
did buy the Fosters. So the thing I want to say though, like, is that I was sitting there talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, "What do you do for a form of prospecting?" Oh, I send Starbucks cards. I'm like, how much do you send Starbucks cards for? And they're like, "Oh, like a couple of dollars or $5 or something like that." I'm like, "Have you ever used one?" Like, no. I went to the drawer that I've got here in the office and I opened it. I'm like, "That's all the Starbucks cards I get sent that I've never used." And I said to someone, I'm like, do you think Starbucks will ever bring out a survey to say that like, oh, these are like, this is the percentage of the people that use the Starbucks cards? Absolutely not. Then I said, I'm sorry, that was the stupidest thing that's ever come out of my mouth. Why would they? Why would they do that to say that it just doesn't work? I have to think that like not a lot of people actually use them whatsoever. And I'm just thinking about like there's no data in the perspective of handing that out. There's no data in the
Yeah.
perspective of mailers. There's no data in the perspective of different things that are out there. And this is where I want to make a segue, Chris, because we're diving really deeply into this with a few people in the company at the moment, the people we do closer work with. And the first things first is that Carol Toby was on as an episode of the podcast. She gave us an incredible, and I've actually taken this on from a coaching perspective with agents, is that I love the simplicity of the way that she's classified her database. Her database is D, okay, for people that she's just met, cultivating a relationship with. Then you've got C, okay, which are people that have responded and they've they're responding to the program that you use or the stuff that you're sending out to them, or they're interacting. And then you've got B, which is somebody that knows who you are and what you do. Then you've got A, who does a deal with you, and then you've got A plus people that refer deals to you, or even the A's that refer deals to you. Now, why I'm going down this path is that having that cleanliness of your database, you can actually then pick the individual sections of your database to target specifically within social media. And again, it doesn't need to be like a specific target to get a call to action. It's just a specific layer that then they've actually gotten it or seen it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's two aspects that we need to get into when it comes to any social media advertising, but also just marketing as a whole, which is there's two primary functions of marketing inside of real estate for a real estate agent. You're either doing one of two things. You're doing either lead generation or you're jumping into brand awareness. And having a clear differentiator between those two, like what you're talking about right now on social media ads and having all that out there, that's mostly brand awareness, and look at it accordingly. Now, you can run ads and everything like that, like you see with those home valuation ads that are taking off again, and everything that's down those routes. Those are the lead generation aspect. But if you build your business strictly on lead generation ads, you're not getting any of the long term investment from your clients. The clients don't care about you. It's a transactional side of your business at that point. While if you're doing brand awareness, people start to learn who you are and they start to engage with you as the person and the business. And from that standpoint, they're actually tied to you deeper than they would be if you just ran lead generation. But there's a balance between the two. And I think that's what people need to understand is if you're running these door knocking or these flyers or these gift card programs that are intended to try and get meetings, those are very much, on your lead generation ads where you're focusing more on the transaction and they're not actually building any rapport with you or building any rapport with your business at that point. But if you're focusing on brand awareness and you're only focusing on brand awareness, and you'll know this obviously from like, it's the guy who shows up at the golf club who's decked out in all the golf gear who can't play. You know what I mean? Like, so
Sounds like a few people we know, including
exactly.
myself,
So
but
it sounds
whatever.
like a handful of people who buy all the TaylorMade and buy all the,
I've even
Travis
gone
Matthews and all that stuff.
I've even gone to the extent of being so douchey that I have my name on my bag like a pro.
Exactly. See?
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's the people who show up to a foursome and they're decked to the nines and they look like Tiger Woods, but then they can't play if their life depended on it. So that's more of the brand awareness. And so, but if you marry the two and you're somehow in the middle of where you can hit a 300-yard drive and you also look good, that's where the key is from I think from a real estate standpoint. You want to be doing a little bit of both. You want to have a little bit of lead generation and a little bit of brand awareness so that they just complement each other really, really well. If you're doing a lot of brand awareness, it will make all your lead generation tactics a lot cheaper as well because people already have a rapport with you. They already have a credibility to your name at that point.
So a couple of things that just come to mind with this, Chris, is that we're not an advocate or one or the other. I think that people need to
No.
understand that there has to be there has to be some diversity within their business, because the first things first, the brand awareness perspective is what we're talking about, of taking an existing database of what you already know or people that you already know, and you're actually then making them just aware of your social presence within the different platforms. And again, not everybody's going to be on social media, not everyone's going to follow you, not everyone's going to see that. So therefore, this is a way of like maybe spending a little bit of money in order to create some ads. Now, they don't have to be call to action ads. They just need to be sponsored posts where there might be a market update. It might be something that's more generalized or specific to your individual area. It might be a listing you're proud of. You've got to think about this, that you can brand identify yourself through the listings that you get. Like, let's say you get a
Yes.
$5 or $6 million listing and you don't usually have those listings. Maybe you want to spend a bit of money on that, socially promoting that individual aspect, so therefore it's attracting more people along those lines. Again, that's
Yep.
a strategy of what you're actually doing, can be an entire another episode. But then as far as we go down and looking at just the brand awareness perspective and then the lead generation perspective, the one thing that I want people to be top of mind of is the type of business that it creates for them. So first of all, if it's brand awareness, let's be positive here. Sorry, excuse me, not positive. Let's have an optimistic perspective here. You've got to have an optimistic perspective for a very, 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 very long runway, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, you and I are the product of that through our podcast, through our YouTube channel, through our ads, through our social targeting, through the calling, through the emails, through everything that we're trying to achieve. It's an incremental battle,
Yep.
okay? But then the next part of it that we look at is that the instantaneous nature of the business of lead generation and that call to action side of the business, of whether it's cold calling, whether it's clickable ads on social media, like you said, the home valuation ones, whatever strategy that is, I want you to understand the different types of clients between the two of these. The one
Yes.
where we're doing brand awareness, they're calling me and going, Ben, come and list my home. It's not Ben, come and compete for the listing.
100%. And that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to dive into a little bit more too, is the difference between a lead generation. And we know the agents, and we've probably all have experience buying Zillow leads, right? They're terrible, like to their core. At least when I
Okay.
was buying
Be
them.
careful. Be careful. In the comment
No,
section, you'll just
good,
start to get people
good.
fired up about this.
Good.
Yeah.
But they're more work. Honestly, they're lower intent. They're not tied to you in any way, shape, or form. They're buyers who are going to drag you around, take you to a bunch of listings. You have to take them to a bunch of listings, and then they might just flip to another agent at some point because they have no tie to you at all. You're someone who showed up from a website that has no branding to you or anything like that. So that's where I get it from the Zillow leads. But there is a place in the world for Zillow leads. Like if I want immediate gratification or immediate satisfaction for my business, then yes, I will maybe employ some kind of online portal leads at that
Do you know?
point.
Do you know what I think? Do you know who the people that I think do pretty well out of the Zillow leads is the
Yep.
ones that obviously can have a really good process to filter out the shit versus the good.
Yes.
But then other people that do really well with Zillow leads are the ones that have falsified their perspective of how successful it is. They're really busy doing things that aren't dollar productive, but it's making them feel like they have a purpose.
100%. It's that thing where we came back to it's tangible. Like, it's easy to kind of quantify that I'm busy. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
But when it comes to organic leads that come in, inbound leads that come off your website or anything like that. Now, I know there's a lot of realtors out here who probably get spam and all their inbound leads and everything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who you have built a social presence with, or you've built through calls or emails or value propositions or anything like that you've done, and then they come back inbound to your website, like Ben has experienced recently, for everybody coming into our website. Those are the way more qualified leads. Those are the ones who have already
Oh,
done their self research. They've
well,
already
no,
kind
no,
of
no, no, no.
chosen you.
Let's give an example of this.
Yep.
I call Chris and I go, hey bud, we just got a listing off the podcast. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, these guys in Texas like called me. It was Sam. Actually got the property listed right now. Lovely, lovely people, run an independent agency out in Dallas, Texas, and he legitimately sends an inquiry form to the website, going, interested in listing a property as an auction. Where did you hear of us? On your podcast. And I called him like, this is creepy.
Yeah, and it got even creepier after that too. Where,
Where
where
another one, like the same day, another guy from Atlanta reaches out. But it's funny that none of us think that these elements work until they do.
yes,
It's so interesting from that perspective. But I don't want to get away from the perspective of what you were talking about, mate, because I just want people to understand, if you're going to layer, that means like it comes down to your skill set and the type of person that you are. Is that if you are good at competing for business, your listing presentation is buttoned up, like you are good at the chase, you are good at the follow-up, you are good at the sequencing of that follow-up, you are just buttoned up, or you just, let me just put it in blunt terms, you're a dog with a bone, you're good to go on that cold lead side of the business. But
Yep.
if you're somebody that needs that referral-based business, that nurturement or that relationship with somebody, I'm not saying that you're a bad realtor or you're bad from a skill set perspective. I'm just saying that you're just not cut out for the competitive nature of what you're doing. That's probably the organic side that you need to lean into a little bit more, but know that it's going to take a very long time to reap rewards. Like I've got like one of the teams we work with at the moment, I've got them very comfortable with the fact of you may never know ever know whether or not that client came in or gave you a call based on them seeing your social media or based on them just seeing a sign in the yard or just knowing who you guys are. You may never know unless you really dig down and ask them the questions. It's just a bunch of layering to ensure that you're in front of them.
And that's where we employ this on our website. And Ben just talked about it a little bit. But we do have a "How did you hear about us" situation on our website, which is a self-reporting aspect that we can then gauge what's working for us. Like we would have never known that they came from the podcast if that form wasn't filled out in the podcast. And we
Yep.
had two.
I
And
do want to do another episode on that, Chris. Let's not
yep,
dive in deep. I just want to do contact forms on your website or
a
places to
100%.
capture information. I think this is another thing that like I won't like I've got a guest that's coming on the podcast. I met them. I didn't exchange information. Sorry, I did exchange information with them and then I did anyway, long story short, I didn't put it down properly in my phone. I Googled them. I could not find a fucking phone number or email address, and it just
Yeah.
there was no contact form. Like to the extent that I had to call somebody else to go, do you know these people? Yes, I do. Can you give me their number? Like that's just
Yeah.
like you're in real estate, man. Like that is just not good. So anyway,
Exactly.
we'll get to that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I forgot the kind of the train of thought that I
Oh,
was on from that
sorry. Just
standpoint. No, no,
completely cut you off.
yeah, you're
Oh
good.
no.
But
Oh, here
but
we
we're
go.
seeing, yeah, right. We'll go down the hole.
No. Just wait. Let's watch him get himself out of this. This is good. Go.
I don't want
What
to
were
get
you going to
myself
say?
out of it.
What were you going to
I'll
talk
lean
about,
into it.
Chris?
I'll just lean right in. Like, I'll just stay here forever. Yeah. So the organic leads, if we get back to that, are usually much higher intent than the typical lead generation aspects of the typical Zillow leads or anything like that that you would be running out there. So if you're focusing on brand awareness, that's where the higher intent leads, and we call them hero leads. It's high intent revenue opportunities is the term that's used in a lot of e-commerce worlds. And those are the leads that you want at the end of the day. Those are the leads that you don't have to work for. You're not going on listing presentations. And you talked about a little bit, if you're the dog with the bone and you're chasing after some of those leads, that's a lot. It's funny, back in my day, I used to have to, we were bringing in a lot of marketing leads all across the country for this big brokerage that I worked for. And one of my jobs was to train agents how to respond to online leads. And it was like pushing a rock uphill, like pushing a wheel uphill. It was the worst experience ever, because the people who got it. The people who like knew as soon as a lead comes in, they need to be contacted right away. They need to be followed up with. They need to be chased down. Like you have to really work to get them inside of your business and turn into an actual opportunity for your business, and like a money making opportunity for your business. And the ones who didn't get that, who thought they can respond an hour later or 2 hours later or anything like that, we had to just cut them out of the process as a whole. We had a rule basically.
Response time.
Yeah, we had a rule where you had like three strikes and you're out, like a baseball situation. So three strikes and you're out, and you're not allowed to get any more leads until you go through a complete course again, because that's how like involved you need to be when it comes to
Yeah.
the lead generation aspect. If a lead goes unanswered for 30 minutes, I think I forgot the exact terminology, but like your success rate drops to like 10%.
Yeah.
It's unreal, like at that point. So what you would usually get,
So
you
you've got
probably
to
only success.
so you've got to be set. You've got to be ready to go
You
like at all times.
you have to be ready to go, but you also have to be, ready at all types of times of the day. Like you don't know when those leads are going to actually cash into actual leads. Like, and so if someone comes in at 10:15 p.m., you need to have a text message following up saying, "Hey, I'll chat
Oh,
with you tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning." Like,
yeah, and by the way, we're not saying you shouldn't do these. We're not leaning
no,
one way or the other.
no,
You just need to be
100%.
prepared for what angle and what element is coming on. The
Yep.
final point that I want to do, because I do want to keep this a short episode, Chris, because I want to make this sure that like the final point that I want to put in place here. I want people to understand the types of like where we have seen the most success with auction and reaching out to people.
Yep.
And I want to put it this way. the agents that are doing the layering process and really working on the nurturement of their database and the people that are coming to them going, hey, Ben, list my home versus, hey, well, okay, if you want to compete for the listing, come on in, like the lead generation side of it. Those are the people that once they list the home, once they then might not sell the property immediately, then we talk about auction. The relationship with the sellers is very, very strong. They still end up getting to sell it. Most of the time, they sell it without using auction as well. They've got a higher average list to sale ratio. I want to be clear about something. If you're building your business solely from a lead perspective and that cold element, that lead generation cold element, you don't have a good nurture perspective, you don't have a good sequencing perspective, that's where we get a great deal of our business, guys, from an auction perspective, is that we reach out to agents that are churning over these massive, massive lead generation businesses because their relationship with their sellers are shallow. The quality of
Yes.
the listings that they're getting are shallow. Okay. And their success rate is bad. We come in with the auction. We certainly help them and we certainly increase that success rate. There's no question about it. But let's take auction out of the equation, is that the list to sale ratio of leads, and we're talking about listing leads, I'm not talking about buyer leads here, is that the listing side of the business of people that are nurturing and taking that long game and putting those beautiful processes in place and committing to this for a very long time, their list to sale ratio is pretty high. They might not do as many deals or list as many properties, but they are working smarter, not harder in a lot of ways of what we've seen. The others on the cold perspective, I think that they've got to put a lot of runs on the board to
Yeah.
get kind of the same outcomes as some of these ones that are nurturing. And it sort of seems like there's not one group that's better than another. They sort of level themselves out, but it seems to me like these cold generation leads people are working a lot harder, Chris. Fair enough
Yeah.
observation?
So the cold side of it will be a lot of volume based. It would be quantity over quality. While you're talking about from an organic standpoint, you're really talking about quality over quantity. So it's kind of reverse of each other. I would say to your point on that, that it's not only that they're tied to you, it's much easier for those people from an organic standpoint and the people who are already in your sphere and the people you're working with awareness and everything like that. It's more prone for them to be your repeat and referral clients at the end of the day than it would be for your cold call people as well. So, and we know 64% of all real estate business comes from repeat and referral at that point. And so, if you would have to, like you said, you'd have to get a lot of runs on the board with the cold aspect of it in order to get repeat and referral from that. You'd have to do a tremendous job, be super buttoned up throughout the
Isn't
entire
but
process to get repeat and referral from any cold call lead that comes from that. While from an organic standpoint, they're already tied to you, they're married to you, they're invested with you, they want to see your success, so they would repeat and referral you all day.
isn't that amazing though? Like, and
Yeah.
final point on this is that it's amazing though, like 64% of real estate business comes from repeat and referral. However, if you were to go and, like, this is a consumer report that goes out there, I think the
Yeah.
statistic, I think it is, okay, could be wrong, is that 88% of people can't name their realtor within inside 12 months of buying their home. And like I was thinking about Jason the other day. Jason, who used to work for Harcourts Auctions, he's moved back to Australia to raise his son Aston. And I was thinking about the area that he chose to go into real estate, because I know he's not from that area, and it would be the least amount of area that I would ever go into from a real estate perspective. It's so highly competitive. And he's gone into the Barden sort of Paddington sort of market. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, there's no way that, like, there's just so many people that have so many relationships within that business. But then I thought to myself, I don't know if it matters. Like, I was just, again, it was just this weird train of thought. I think I was even in the shower. It was kind of strange. But it was like there are these people that, like, the best people in Brisbane real estate are like older, like, sort of, when I say older, sort of middle age, have been there for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And there's many people in that marketplace that have relationships with people. But I was thinking to myself, there's still this element of these new agents that are breaking into these marketplaces all the time, because that nurturement or that top of mind awareness is not there. They think a call a year is okay, or they
Yeah.
think, selling a home in the neighborhood and putting a sign up is okay.
Or they rely on the brokerage there a lot more for the brand awareness, and
Yeah.
you'll know that too. Like Harcourts Ascot, old services
Yeah.
Ascot, and like
Yeah.
they rely, the seasoned agents think the brokerage has to do all the heavy lifting when it comes to brand awareness, and then the younger agents come in and they're like, I'll do this on my own, like, and
Yeah.
I'll figure out my own brand awareness and I'll figure out how to make myself stand out, and so they win in a lot of those markets, which is really cool.
Yeah, indeed. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful, and looking forward to seeing you on a new episode of Rethink Real Estate soon.
Thanks everybody. See ya.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.